Thank you, first of all, for being here. Today, we are actually going to talk about the suicides, and which is the major issue right now in New Zealand. We
hmm
already aware of that in overall in world, around 800,000 people each year takes their lives and self-harm them. So that means like every 40 seconds, at least one person takes their own life. And New Zealand is
Yeah,
one of
that's
the, yeah. New Zealand is one of the highest rates in suicidal issues. So
mm,
today I would like to talk about this topic as I'm already aware of that you had a lived experience about it. So
yes, I
yeah.
did.
So before we start our conversation, would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, kia ora. So my name is Monique Macdonald, and I live here in the Maititi Manawatu. From here, Rangitane, Whakapapatu Rangitane, Ngati Kahungunu e Ngāpuhi. I've also got a bit of Scottish and Irish blood in me. My background in terms of the work that I do, first and foremost, I am a mum. I'm a wife. I'm a grandmother too. And my background in terms of mahi is kaupapa Māori mental health and addictions. And I've been working in the health sector for since I was 18. And I'm now 38. I'm now 38. Well, 38 this year. So that's 20 years that I've been working in health and different aspects of health. So I originally started out in the disability sector, then moved into the mental health sector, and then came into our iwi space and worked in health promotion there, and then realised that my desire was with our whānau in terms of mental health and addictions. Even though I don't practice in that mahi right now, I'm still, I guess, indirectly working with those sorts of people through rongoa Māori and pautikanga spaces and things like that. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself. And like you said, yeah, lived experience in terms of I guess person affected by someone in my whānau who committed suicide. Um, I mean, when I was a lot younger, there was a few uncles who um who fell by the way and chose that option as a means of taking them into the next life, I guess. But just recently, the last 3 years or 3 years ago, my older sister, she committed suicide. And because when you're younger, you don't really quite comprehend what's going on, the effects, and all those sorts of things. And it's not until you get older and you are able to comprehend what's happened that it actually affects you in some way or another. And yeah, so yeah, 3 years ago, my older sister took her life, and she was in Arohata prison at the time, which is a women's prison down in Wellington or in Tawa. Um, and her background was a very sad one. Um, I mean, she didn't have the best start to life, I guess, and so some of those traumas, I I believe, followed her into adulthood, and yeah, and I think contributed to her taking her own life. Um, yeah,
Oh,
so
really, I mean, really sorry to hear that you had to gone through a lot, I mean to say. I mean,
yeah.
how did you feel on that time when you hear that your older sister committed suicide?
I was shattered. I was absolutely shattered, and I think one of the main reasons why was because a couple of weeks before she did it, we had been in touch quite a bit, and we were talking about working on a wellness plan for her. Putting supports in place, creating a network of support for her so we could help her through her issues. And when we counseled together, she never really mentioned the word suicide and always said that I'll never do that, sis. I'll never do that, my sissy. Trust me, I'll never do that. And I'm like, yeah, if you ever get to the point of doing that, please contact me. Um, and so when I found out that she had done it, I just dropped to the floor really and just was in a bit of disbelief. But at the same time, for me, I felt I felt her relief from what she felt was too heavy for her to hold in this realm. I thought of her 4 children that she would leave behind, and her first mokopuna, her first grandchild. And I thought of, what, yeah, I just thought about those that she had left behind, but I also thought about the trauma that she was carrying at the time, and how maybe she felt she had remedied leaving all that behind by doing what she did. But yeah, I was absolutely broken because, death is not new to me. And to a lot of people in our culture, I guess, and maybe like yourself as well, not celebrate death, but we really mourn for our dead. And I've lost children, I've lost 4 babies due to late miscarriage. I've lost a father, a grandfather, aunties, uncles, cousins, but she was my first sibling, and so it really hit differently because you just, yeah, it just hits differently. Um, you you think you can't experience sadness on another level, but you do. And being an older sister and me being the youngest, on my dad's side, it really took effect. But I knew that I needed to step up and be there for her, and just, in terms of laying her to rest. So that's what the next couple of days kind of looked like for us, just planning for her final resting place. But yeah, in terms of the internal feelings, yeah, absolutely shattered, and just thought, why when we had put all this stuff in place, um,
True,
you know, and
true,
I felt
true.
guilty. I felt like I had let her down. I had quite immense feelings of guilt because I felt like I was responsible in some way because I work in that space, right? And I thought, how could I not have helped her? What
Yeah.
could I have done better? And I was really kicking myself. And because she had phoned me the day that she was admitted into prison, or the day before, and she told me, Sissy, I'm going to hand myself in. Not that she had done anything major. It was a
Okay.
real small charge that she was being imprisoned for, and even the police officer said it was pathetic. But because of their processes and their policies and procedures, right, they have to follow through with what they have to follow through with. But she had gone to visit our dad at the grave a week before, and she felt like she had received some sort of solace there with my dad, and she could feel my dad telling her that she needed to sort herself out and get herself back on track. And so when she'd phoned me, she'd mentioned that to me, and I was like, awesome. So what does that look like? We're gonna pursue this plan that we're creating. And she was like, yep, but I need to do this first, which was hand herself in, get that part out the way, and then, yeah. But, reflecting on that, um, I think it was just all part of her plan, you know. She knew her children were going to be okay. She didn't want to do it outside. I don't know. Just there's just so many elements to it, so many levels that you could look into that situation. Like, I don't think anyone means to kill themselves. They don't
Hmm.
intentionally mean to do it.
Hmm.
They just see that I don't know, it's like they just see that as an out. It's almost like a drug. When people take drugs, it's a temporary fix, right?
Hmm.
And they think committing to the thought of whakamomori or suicide is going to temporarily disconnect them from that discomfort or that pain or that whatever that they may be going through. But it's fatal. It's absolutely fatal. And so I
Yeah.
was just saying, like, it's in the moment. Like, no one ever intentionally means to kill themselves, but it's just that small moment.
You mentioned that it was hard. You already knew about it, that something's going wrong with her, but you never knew that she gonna take that big step, right? I mean, you knew
Yeah,
that, you were already planning a wellness plan with her, and you already know that she's gonna be better. But
yeah.
how how did you feel, and how did you feel about the grief after that? Because you said that you felt guilty about that not doing much thing. So then how did you overcome? I mean, what makes you to think
Um,
about that, okay, now I'm gonna go back to my work or go back to, in the
yeah.
place where I supposed to be?
Well, because I was working in a space that was surrounded by those sorts of conversations, and, mental health and addictions, working in the space where we're supporting people to not do that on a daily basis. It was hard. It was really challenging. And I actually struggled. And I was at work. They call it compassionate fatigue. Like I felt like I started to develop this thing called compassionate fatigue where I just started to not care about other people's stories anymore, their narratives because of that guilt. I felt like if I couldn't help my sister, why am I sitting here trying to help you? Type of thing.
Yeah,
Not that there was any hate or anything towards the whānau or the people that I was supporting at the time, because I was very, I maintained professionalism, but internally, I'd come away from those hui or those interactions with whānau and be like, man, it just doesn't feel real anymore. And then luckily I work in a place where we're all about whānau water, so we're all about the well-being of not only the people that we support, but our own well-being as well. And so I was given as much time as I needed to kind of I'm not going to say recover, but come to terms with what had happened and look at what that looked like for me now in terms of my work. Um, and then lucky an opportunity come up for me to manage our local iwi radio station. And so that enabled me to kind of step out of that space and be a direct, I guess, support for whānau and work with whānau in a more indirect way. And I think that is what really helped. Um, and it was just normalizing the conversations around it, not
yeah,
being afraid to share the experience. Yeah, and just knowing and just I guess trying to acknowledge it with love and positivity as opposed to anger and resentment. Because I think sometimes that's what we can hold on to as the people affected by those that commit suicide is we hold on to that anger, we hold on to that guilt, we hold on to resentment and all those sorts of emotions and feelings, which only make us miserable.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I believe there's a learning in everything, in every experience that we have, whether good or bad, and sometimes we just got to take the good from it, whether that be that cool, my sister brought us all together, whether that's the good, and we just got to kind of try and disregard all the negative elements that come with whakamomori, that come with suicide. Yeah, but yeah, like I say, I was just lucky I worked in a place that understood what I was going through, and so they allowed me to navigate that as fast or as slow as I needed to, and put
yeah.
things in place for myself. Yeah,
No, that's wonderful actually that your place help a lot and the
yeah,
Fanao help, right? I mean,
yeah,
but for you, like you were open, right? That you were
yeah.
okay to talk about that topic. You were okay to, come with the whatever the insights and whatever you feel, right? But
Hmm.
there are a lot of people around us that the people don't want to share, right? The
Yeah,
people feel like if I'll share that one of my sister or my brother who committed suicide, might the people judge me, so
yeah.
they don't try to come and open up with this conversation. And might you are already working in that sector and you are aware of that, then how do you talk to those people? How do you, come up and open up with this conversation? Doesn't it feel very hard, I mean, for the people who don't try to, come and open up about that conversation?
Yeah, it can appear to be difficult. Um, but I guess I'm not going to say it's a skill, but you just if you can read the energy or if you can read somebody else, like you'll just know how to kind of navigate that conversation. And it might, say if it's someone coming to see me and I can sense that it's something like that, that they're resisting to talk about what they need to talk about, then, it might be the next tui or the next interaction or whatever. But I try and tell whānau that they need to be as honest as they can with with the things that they need to share. Otherwise, what happens is it continues to build up inside of them, and it can result in other tūroro and other sicknesses or ailments. And you see that in people too, those who are resisting to share, or not so much share, but speak the truth or speak what they're really feeling, because they can get hostile. There's all those sorts of things that
Yeah.
start to kind of identify what they're
Yeah.
going through.
True. True.
They start to withdraw, they start to isolate, and all those sorts of things. And so those are signs alone. And so, being a practitioner, those are the things you look for, right? If
Yeah.
people aren't
Yeah.
speaking. And then
Right.
some way you can use those as pathways to kind of get in and have a chat about what's really going on. But as building that rapport, making sure that they understand who you are, not so much where you come from, but who you are and what your purpose is with them. And just share about, because to heal we have to acknowledge what is truly going on, right? And because I'm a kairongo as well, that's part of our mahi. We need to acknowledge what is truly going on. Then we need to forgive it, so we can then, let it go. And the forgiveness part that's all about creating that disconnection. Because if we don't forgive something, for those that hold on to things and it's making them
Yeah.
hostile or whatever, there's an element of forgiveness that hasn't occurred, right? And so they're still connected to that trauma or to that feeling, and to that. It could be shame. Some people are embarrassed to speak about what's
Right.
happened with their loved one who has committed suicide per se. And so they hold it in. But then it might come out at the pub on Friday night, or the clubs on Saturday night. There could be a brawl. There could be all sorts of
Yeah.
different
Definitely.
ways that hurt is projected. So it's just helping people understand that, being aware of self and just knowing that it's okay to normalize these sorts of conversations because, like you say, it's happening so frequently.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. It's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
True.
The
True.
the the speed, the pace of we call it this ngangara, this taniwha that's taking our people. Um, so yeah, it's a sign that we need to start talking. We need to start talking a bit more about it so we can normalize it. And so people that might be sitting in that boat know that okay, it's a conversation that's out there. People know, people are aware. Um, I can have a conversation. I can talk about it. You know? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That people are, I mean, feel shame and they not want to talk about it, and they feel that
yeah,
it's not the right time, and they don't know when the right time is coming to talk about it,
yeah,
and might
yeah,
it's getting so late to talk about that conversation, and they take everything inside them, and
yeah,
they feel miserable. They think that it's, as you said, that you felt guilty too for a certain period,
yeah,
even though you have a good experience in the healthcare, right?
yeah,
Even though you work with the people, right? So you are already
yeah,
aware of that might possibilities from inside your heart that something can come up, right? Like
yeah,
that. So it was easy, I mean, not easy, but it was at least that what to do, how to cope up
yeah,
with it, because you already had experience. But as you experienced a lot with the other people, right? But what I think is, I mean, it's very hard when it comes to our own family, right?
yes,
It's
absolutely.
different, right? Because
Yeah,
you relate, you definitely relate to the people you help. But when it comes to your own family, when it comes to your own loved ones, it's totally a different story. Do you think so?
yeah, 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 absolutely. And I think that's what kind of dropped me to my knees when my sister did what she did. Because I was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
my own.
Yeah.
It's my own. And the reality of that, yeah, it definitely hits differently. Um, because, you've been practicing in that space for so long with
Yeah.
others. And, like you say, yep, you relate to them and you're honest and you care for them as much as you would your own. But when your own do it, it actually just knocks you back a little bit. Um, but luckily, over the years, I've been able to build some resilience around this stuff, right? And so I was able to just spend about a good day just crying and trying to, adjust to what I just heard. And then I knew I needed to bounce back quick because there was more things that we needed to do. Um, and like you say, people say, well, when's the right time to have these sorts of conversations? But it's just
Yes,
like parenthood. That's people use that for parenthood too. It's not the right time. I don't know enough, but
yes, true.
you'll never know enough until you speak about it, until you have that conversation with someone. And I am aware too that different cultures have their own beliefs and their own values and their own tikanga around what they do when it comes to this sort of death. But I think ultimately for everyone, it just needs to be spoken about. And I think that's a preventative step. That's my thoughts. There might be people that will listen to this and be like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But this is my experience, right? This is my experience. And I remember when I first started in mental health too, I actually had a whānau, a client. Sorry, I don't like using the word client. A whānau who committed suicide under my care. And I just want to talk about how, like, they're clever. Like, everyone's clever. But, like, we had goals, right?
Mm,
Me and this whānau. And
mm.
I'm sure she wouldn't mind me sharing. Um, but we had goals, and one of her goals was to get her motorbike license. And I thought, wow, this is awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'll help you with this. And so obviously we had to review them every month. So we managed to achieve that goal of her getting her license within the month. And then her next goal after that was to purchase a motorbike. And I thought, this girl's on. Cool. Sweet. Let's go and do that. So we went shopping, looked online, went around to different stores, and she managed to find a good one online. And I thought, okay, sweet. So, tick box. But when it came to her doing the do, um, her having her motorbike was all part of her plan to get her to the place that she wanted to go to commit suicide.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So when you know what I mean? So it's powerful, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
when I reflected back on all the work that we had done, it was all part of her plan.
Plan. True.
Like it was, oh, I just got goosebumps as I shared that. It was all part of her plan. And she went back, she took herself back to a place where she was sexually abused as a child. Yeah, on her motorbike that we
Wow.
had successfully purchased as part of her goals with her support, with her wellness plan. But
Wow.
she wanted to go back to that. She took herself back to that place and she had written a letter and she had identified the reason why she was where she was. And, I got that. I totally understood that. She had carried this trauma for, like, she worked as a psychologist for years and then became unwell. So she knew what she was doing, but at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, I don't think she ever really intently meant to take her life. It was just
Mm.
in that moment. So we can look like we're planning for it, but when it comes to the deed, I don't think we ever really intentionally mean to succeed. Um,
So, do you think
yeah.
so? There is any way to stop this, or?
We just had a suicide recently in our whānau a couple of weeks ago. Um, he was close to my husband, young father. Um, I just, life is tough. Like life is really hard at the moment for a lot of people. And I mean, it's been hard for people for a very, very long time. But when you think about the world that we are currently living in, the cost of living, um, the 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 struggles to find employment, if you're not educated, all that kind of stuff. I think those socio-economical factors play a big part in people's will contribute, to people's decision to kind of do what they, to commit suicide. I really do. Like there's so many factors that contribute to it. But, especially for our men, like they like to see themselves as the providers and
Yes.
as the ones that go to work and bring home the bacon. But we're
Yeah.
living in 2025 now, and it's now a joint thing. You got mothers back in the day who would be stay-at-home mums and raise the children, but now both have to be back in the working field, right? Because society is pulling us that way.
Yes, yes.
And so that can create all sorts of different emotions and depressions and, because
True.
you're disconnected from your child because you have to go to work and pay for childcare,
Yes.
not pay
Right.
for your own mortgage, you have to pay
No.
for childcare. So
True.
there's all those different social factors that, yeah, I think that are just getting heavier and heavier as time goes
Yes.
on. And, you know, whānau out there thinking, man, I can't do it anymore. I
Yeah,
just,
that you're
I
absolutely
can't.
right. Yeah, man, I mean, it's very hard to open up because
Yeah,
they, I mean, the society has given them a name as that you are a provider, as you said, right?
that's
And
right.
you
Yeah,
can't be sad. You can't,
yeah.
I mean,
You
you
can't
can't
cry.
have, yeah, you can't cry, right?
Yeah,
You're strong. But now there are a men who, right, feel depressed, having a lot of
yeah,
stress, right? But
yeah,
can't open up. In New Zealand, especially, men having higher suicidal issues than compared to a woman, and which is
yeah.
sad.
And you kind of just over the last couple of years, you've seen an increase in men's groups, being
Yes, yes,
developed.
yes, yes.
In youth, because I know youth is high on the stats too, right?
True,
Our
true, true.
rangatahi are up there too. So there's been lots of emphasis in terms of support, put in those spaces where the rates, where the statistics are high.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. I mean, and also like recently I have read an article that about saying 13-year-old boy has committed suicide due to bullying.
Oh,
I mean, it's sad, right?
there's those social factors too, right?
Yes,
There's
yes.
so
So
many, and it's just sad that people can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know,
yes.
I like there's just like you can work through that. There's a way to get through that,
Mm,
and that way is different for everybody. But
true.
you've just got to try and endure that trial to receive the blessing at the end of it. Which
Right.
is life,
Yes, yes,
as hard
definitely.
as it is.
Definitely, it's very
Yeah,
hard. I mean, in the current situation, as you said, there are a lot of social determinants do affect as a economy wise, as a financial issues, a lot of issues, right? Like employment issues,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean,
Financial's a biggie, eh?
yeah.
Financial's a biggie.
Do you think social media affects in any
Oh yes,
way?
I I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. It's a fake world, right? It's a
Yes,
fake world,
yes,
kind of like gaming. You
yes.
can get people so caught up on gaming. People get so caught
True.
up on social media, and they create this facade. Like they become something that they're not. And then when reality kicks in, oh, I'm not that person that was
That's
on
so true.
social media type of thing. I think it can be a dangerous determinant or contributor to that word,
Yes,
to
yes, yes.
suicide.
That's so
But even like it, suicide ideation, all of that. Yeah, social media is just, it's what's it called? It's a platform where people can pretend, you know,
mm, mm, mm.
where people
Right,
can
true,
pretend to be something
true.
that they're not, where a lot of keyboard warriors are born.
Yes, yes, true.
Um, but but unfortunately, social media is some people's reality, and so if hurt is being pushed on them through social media, then they're going to take that personally.
Yes, yes,
And I
definitely.
think that's where it gets a bit tricky. Um, Gaming too.
Yeah.
You get some people that are real hostile in that
Oh,
space, and
yes, yes.
that's their world.
Yeah, that's
But they
their
don't.
world. True.
They forget that stepping outside your door is that's the real world.
Yeah.
The fresh air, the grass
Nah,
beneath your feet. So yeah, they can become quite just another drug, really, if you think about it.
nah. Definitely, it's kind of addiction, right?
Yeah,
It's a
it's an
one kind of
addiction.
addiction. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, what do you think that should be new things should come up? I mean, to stop this. I mean, we can't stop it. What do you think that should be a government or society should do it?
Yeah, it's just as big as homelessness, right? It needs to have light shone on it. our people, everybody needs to be educated on the matter, because it's around all of us. It's in our schools, it's in our communities, it's in our workplaces even,
Yes.
it's in our families. And so I think we were at Relay for Life a couple of weeks ago, and I was just sitting there with some of my colleagues, and I was just like, man, we need to do something like this for suicide awareness. We're doing Relay for Life for our whānau who are suffering from cancer, which is awesome, or whānau affected, or those who have passed on, which is absolutely beautiful. And I was like, imagine this kind of setup for suicide as well, you know? Um,
Yeah.
I think we need to increase the volume on the situation and really highlight the importance around normalizing the conversations around it, and remove the stigma, remove
Yes.
the shame,
Yes.
remove the barriers that prevent us from having those decent conversations, and knowing that it's okay, like it's okay,
Yeah.
um,
True.
because the conversation might actually save somebody.
True.
That's what we hear with the promoting materials around suicide. Just reach out for help. Well, people don't want to reach out for help when no one wants to talk about it.
Right. Right.
So instead of making it a professional vehicle for whānau to reach out, to make it like a internal, like whānau need to share in that space as well. And I think that's the beauty of what we have here is the whānau water. It's not just about the person affected, it's about the whole whānau. I can think of at the moment,
Yeah. What do you want to say to the listeners who are listening our podcast today and the end of our conversation?
and the end of our conversation. I actually want to share a letter. Can I share a letter?
Yeah,
So
sure.
I had written to ACC when my sister passed away, when my sister took her life. So the funeral home, because my sister had no estate, right? So there was no money to pay for her funeral. And that's the other burden that whānau are left with when people take their own lives, especially those that don't have an estate, is the cost, the financial burden is left with the whānau as well. And that can be a real motivator to become angry and all those sorts of things. But the funeral home that I took my sister to, which was here in Te Awahau in Foxton, beautiful, beautiful place, they suggested that I apply for ACC funding to see if we could get that, to cover some of the costs for my sister's funeral. And I was like, but, ACC accident people,
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. And they're like, just give it a go. So I did. I put in the application and um, surely, and obviously they came back with a decline. But in their decline, in the letter of declining the application, their thing was, how do we know that she didn't do it on purpose? And so for something inside of me just went off when I read that. I was like, what? How do we know that she didn't do it on purpose? So anyway, I ended up writing them back a letter because it just sparked something inside of me to send them a bit of a response so they understood who I was and who my sister was. And so this is the letter.
Wow.
My name is Monique Anderson Macdonald. I am the younger sister of Christina Anderson, who was tragically taken from us on the 1st of February 2022 because of an incident, hanging, suicide, that occurred in Arohata Women's Prison. I've also been given the responsibility of being her next of kin. Therefore, I am writing on her behalf as well as our whānau with regards to a premature judgment that was made on the 10th of February 2022 regarding her claim. I understand that the claim is still in the process of being approved and or declined due to more information required. I also understand that the conversation that took place with a cousin of mine, who is a representative for this claim, alluded to the possibility of ACC declining this claim due to not knowing whether Christina's death was a willing act or an unwilling act. Now, that kind of response baffles me. I work in Māori mental health and addictions and work with whānau all the time who experience suicide ideation. How can anyone prove that such an act was done willingly or unwillingly? The intent to take your own life is a complex matter and falls along a large continuum. while some attempters are probably at the low end of the spectrum with extraordinarily little intent to die, and others are at the high end. Many fall into an ambivalent middle ground. Still others have high intent, but only during very brief episodes. I can assure you that no one ever hangs himself willingly. Yes, Christina may have lived a colourful life and dabbled in things that society proclaimed to be wrong and destructive. However, when you are the victim of childhood trauma with abuse in all its ugly forms, you can only start to imagine why one would find solace in the destructive snares that did unfortunately provide numbness from all the pains of her past. Christina battled for 43 years earthside, and what a battle she endured. She has left behind 4 beautiful boys, with her youngest being only 15. She battled for 43 years earthside, and it was a pretty big battle that she had to endure. She's left behind 4 beautiful boys, with her youngest at the time being 15, so he'll be 18 this year. And she lived for her boys through all the trauma that she went through. They were her motivation and they were her world. Consequently, when one is temporarily isolated, like her, and transitioning into a different environment, and her why, like her family, is being blurred from her view, it is, intuitive to think that her intent to take her own life was not at all deliberate or willingly. And her intent may have been high. And although her intent may have been high at the time, but however, only during that brief moment. So yeah, that was pretty much the borderline of my tone when I wrote
Mm-hmm.
to ACC,
Yes.
and just needed to let them know, like, how, I guess, how unthoughtful their question was around her death. Like, and that's what sparked something inside of me to just, I'm actually going to message these guys, or I'm actually going to send these guys a letter and just educate them a little bit about, I guess what I'm going through and what suicide means to me right now. And they came back a little while after I sent this letter and were absolutely apologetic, and asked for forgiveness, and then offered to pay for my sister's funeral costs.
Mm.
And so I guess, from this experience, it does pay to be honest about what you're needing to share, because,
Yeah, true.
the outcome of that letter, it covered my sister's funeral costs,
Yeah, yeah,
and
true.
although I had already paid for it and a couple of whānau had given a koha, I was able to reimburse that, and then we were able to give a little bit to the kids. And because they also offered to, because they have a policy where they, when there is a child um, under a certain age that is left behind after the death of a parent, they can give them money as well. So my nephew got a little bit of putia as well. So that was the blessing from that letter. I mean, it wasn't going to bring my sister back,
No,
but
definitely not.
it was an opportunity for me to educate them on what I knew, and what I felt, was right for me and my whānau at that time. But yeah, so
That's
I mean,
really
if
good,
there's,
actually, that you open up, that you
yeah,
shared what you felt,
yeah,
and
yeah,
rather than, just reading the mail and, just ignore it. Actually,
ignoring it.
it was, yeah, it was, I mean, really insightful that, I mean, they felt at first that,
Yeah,
what was the
and you,
purpose? I mean,
yeah, and you can align that to us as people, or us
yes,
as whānau, needing to have those conversations, from a whānau point of view. It might save a cousin, it might save an auntie, it might save an uncle if we just be open and honest about the things that we are feeling,
true, true.
just like what you mentioned before, or what you asked before, around those that struggle to normalize these sorts of conversations. Like, I believe that if you do, like, it's not going to save everybody, but
Yeah,
it might save one or two, or 100 or 200. You just never
true,
know. But
definitely.
but for me, like, you can never go wrong with being honest and true.
Yes, yes, nah,
Truth
definitely.
always prevails. There's that saying, truth always prevails. And in this sense, truth prevails in the sense of potentially saving someone's life, you know?
Definitely.
Um,
Can't
and,
say
and it looks,
everyone. Yeah, can't save
yeah,
everyone, but at least one, that would be great.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. and the more you share, the more it's gonna spread, and more it's gonna spread far wide and beyond and
True.
expand to whoever needs to hear it, I guess.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
but it's different for everybody. Like I said earlier, this is me and how it's affected me, and what I've gained from it, I guess. But yeah, we should never ever be afraid to talk about the things that keep us in the dark. Otherwise, we're just going to remain in the dark.
True.
And
True.
yeah, we should just yeah, we open up those blinds and we allow the light to fall upon these things that keep us in the dark, as a means of healing, and overcoming.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Mm,
that's so that's all right. I mean, people do get afraid and people don't want to share and people try to feel alone, but they don't want to actually they're getting used to with it. They're getting used to with it being alone. They're getting used to with it
yeah,
not sharing the thoughts, not sharing what they feel. And actually it is really, I mean, I'm really inspired and hope the people who will listen to your story would get
mm.
really inspired that how
Oh,
you
thank
overcome
you.
it and how you try to, not only help, I mean, try to help your sister though, but also
Yeah,
not only the sister, but the now as well, and also
yeah,
the people who are really affecting it. And
yeah.
the way you have tried it, the way you have opened up it, and today you really came forward and share your story and the share this
Thank you.
letter to, and it was really great. I mean, it was really great to hear that. I hope the people who
Thank you.
listen and cannot who have really going through the issues, they might understood and they might feel that because it's really hard to commit the suicide. It's that what my understanding is that people don't want to do it, people don't
No.
want to take their
Well, I've
life
I've been
because
down
the
that road myself,
yes, yes,
I've contemplated it many a times back in, a few years ago,
yeah,
because I saw it as a way of getting out. But the moment I had my children, that had to go. That was
yes,
no longer allowed to rent free in my head,
true,
that
true,
thought. But we see it as a way of getting out of trouble, a way of getting out of a situation that we don't want to be in.
yes,
But it's, for me, I feel like I'm a bit of a testament to those that may be going through it. Like there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm grateful that I found that light.
no, that's so good. Yeah, yeah, right. You are absolutely right, actually, because I mean, do people do feel that if they're gonna take away their life, and that's the
Mhm.
great option, they can find it out and they can feel it that okay, now it's done. No
Yeah.
stress, no anxiety, no depression. Everything is okay once they will take it life. But I don't think so. That's the end of life
Nah.
story, actually. After that, the
Yeah,
family goes through a lot.
that's
And
right. And for a long time, you know,
yes, yes.
there's all those reminders, all those triggers that kind of bring all those feelings back to the surface. I don't think we ever forget, but we get better at dealing with it.
True.
I remember after losing my third baby, I got real suicidal then. I was like, nah, can't take this anymore. But I had an amazing spiritual experience in the hospital that allowed me to flip the switch
Wow.
type of thing. Um, so there's so many different reasons as to why people would want to do it. And it is personal for some, but
Mm.
it is obvious for others. Poverty, DV,
Oh, yes.
domestic violence, all those sorts of things. Um, drug addiction, addictions and genius things here.
Mm.
But yeah, I was just saying there's so many reasons why people would do what they do.
Yes, true.
But you know, I think got to turn to those that have overcome it and really try and understand their journey so you can pick bits of their journey that might resonate with you to help you on your journey. Um, you know, everyone's different. Everyone resonates with things differently, but
True.
you got to find that commonality. And
Mm.
and yeah, just take those bits and pieces that work for you, even if it is just a small grain. Like because that can grow into something bigger. Um, yeah, it's such a ngangara out there, but
Yes.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be complex. I think we,
Mhm.
the natural man, make it complex, you know?
Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, yes, so thank you so
yeah.
much. Yeah. Do you want to
Thank
share
you.
anything else?
I think I just would like to acknowledge my sister,
Yes.
and just acknowledge her, and I guess for the growth that I've gained from her passing, but also acknowledge all those other whānau that have experienced similar experiences to me, and any of those whānau out there who are going through this journey and are just holding on by a small thread, just hang on because the thread gets thicker. It can get thicker if you allow it to get thicker, and then the grip gets easier. But yeah, just want to acknowledge all those who have been affected by this thing and who will continually be affected by it.
Mm,
Um, but just yeah, there's no words really to provide any comfort, but just follow your wairua, allow your wairua to govern you in this space. Um, yeah, and just be as strong as you can be, whatever strong looks like to you.
true.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So that means like if you are not okay, it's okay. If you're
The sun's going to rise tomorrow.
yes, true, true,
Go to
definitely.
sleep when the sun goes to sleep and wake up when the sun wakes up. Like get out there
Yes.
in the environment, connect
Yeah.
to our taiao, to our environment. There's so many healing properties just beyond our door. All we need to do is feel it, breathe it, breathe it
Yeah.
in. And you try and look for the positives in life as opposed to all the negative. Because we can drown
Yes.
ourselves in our sorrows as
No,
much as we
true,
want. But,
true, true.
strength focus. Look for those strengths. Look for the good points.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you later. Thank you
Ka
so
kite.
much. Bye.
Ka
Bye.
kite.
Yeah. Bye.